Hi, this is Chris Pagentine for CPB Network. I've got a special guest today. Robert Nortmann joins us on my channel to talk about his journey from playing high school and college basketball in Canada to playing professionally in the NBL Canada, playing overseas in Italy at various levels, to Germany at various levels, obtaining his dual passport to be a German citizen, a citizen of the Bahamas, as well as a Canadian. He drops a lot of knowledge on us. He talks about his current station in Iceland and how he has reached each level of play and what each level has entailed, okay? And it's no surprise that he's gotten everywhere he's gotten, not just because of his talent, but because of his character. Stay tuned to hear the gems he drops on us, because you're not going to want to miss this interview. Hello and welcome to the Chris Pagentine Basketball Network. Today I am joined by a special guest, Rob Nortmann. Rob has had some amazing experiences all over the world playing professional basketball, and he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience to drop on you guys. I'm so excited about this interview. Rob, thank you so much for your time and just being here and sharing your experiences with me and the viewers.
Appreciate you having me on. It's been a long journey. It's been 8 years now playing overseas, going on to my 9th season. So I've been able to travel a lot, and I've seen basketball at every different level.
Wow, 9 seasons. That's amazing. Good for you. That's been a long and fruitful career.
Yeah.
So, obviously you have so much to tell us. Let's start back before all of the professional international traveling started. Let's go back to high school. Talk about your background in basketball from that point and what your recruitment was like going into college.
Okay, so I played high school basketball in Toronto. I started relatively pretty late. Started when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
Had a growth spurt. I was 5'11" in 9th grade. Then 10th grade, I was 6'4", and then everyone was like, "You should play basketball."
Yeah, definitely.
I started picking up the game, started playing just like in the parks, got pretty good playing in the parks against guys. I was athletic. I could dunk, do those types of things. And I played at a really small school for most of my high school career. And then I transferred to Eastern Commerce. They were like the top team in Canada.
Okay.
Like a prep year I did. And then as soon as I did that, I got invited to all these different camps, got a lot of scholarship offers in Canada, small opportunities in the States, like some Division II schools and stuff like that. But my coach thought that staying in Canada was the best decision for me personally.
Okay, and why do you think that was?
Well, my development at that point, I'd only played basketball for a few years. He
Right. Okay.
I would get lost in the shuffle. I wasn't ready at that point to at that level, and I could get a better education in Canada compared to the schools that were offering me scholarships in the States. Compared to what I could get in Canada, I was getting a better deal at home. So
yeah, and that's a very mature decision for you. I think so many guys, no matter where they are, whether it's the States or Canada, they're so allured by the level. And I got to be at this because that's what makes me, and you're so focused on the basketball part, nothing else matters. But I think looking at it from that standpoint, what the best place is for you to develop as a player, as a person, as a student, because eventually you may have never played, pro after that, and eventually the basketball will stop bouncing, and you got to be able to do something else. So I think that was a great, very mature, wise beyond your years decision.
yeah, I had to thank my coaches. I had good people around me. So I had
That's very important.
I had a coach. He works with the Canadian national team. He was a pro player himself. So I trusted what he said. So
Yeah.
he gave me advice. I wasn't so sure about it because my instinct was to just try and get to the States any way possible. But I had good people around me, fortunately, to guide me a bit. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So now you chose Dalhousie University.
Yeah.
What was the thing that kind of brought you in and said, this is where I need to go?
So I had a few different visits from some smaller schools, and I liked Halifax. I liked the coach. The school was very reputable. Like they didn't have the best basketball program when I got there, but like academically and campus wise and everything it was just a nice city. I liked the vibe. Like as soon as I got off the plane, I went to the campus, like met the guys, like everything just felt right.
Nice, nice. And that's exactly what it needs to be. If you trust your instincts on that. So, but now the program has definitely grown. Do they still have the same coach there?
The coach left a year after I graduated. When I
Mhm.
was there, we won 2 conference championships.
Wow.
And that was like we hadn't won one since 1996 at that point.
Hmm.
So totally like brought the program in the right direction. And then I think they've won the last 5 out of the 6 years with
Wow.
the new coach they have. So the program is definitely like one of the top in Canada right now. They finished second in the country this past season.
Wow, that's impressive. I remember when I was in Halifax, I went to watch. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, like the top eight, the Elite Eight that they
Yeah.
have, and
Yep.
and they were playing at the arena in Halifax, the Scotiabank Center, and Dalhousie had a great post player and a great guard, and I think they ended up doing very well.
Yep.
That was 2017, at the end of that season. Um, and I think both of those guys ended up going playing professionally, at least in the NBL, if not internationally. So that program has definitely done extremely well. And like you said, Halifax is just a beautiful city, especially in the summer.
Hmm.
Right located on the water. So let's shift gears. So now what was your degree in, by the way?
I got a degree in history, art
History.
major. So I was planning on going into teaching
Okay.
if I didn't get a job overseas. So I was gonna, coach, like be a student coach and
Hmm.
coach, do some more years at teachers college. But then luckily my senior year, I was a conference all-star. Like everything worked out for me because I was playing behind 2 other players for most of my career at Dow.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's like it was tough because like the I was playing at the 4 and we had a guy at the 5 and the 4 that were playing in front of me, and I came off the bench, brought energy, and
Hmm.
then graduated. And then my senior year I was able to like average like 15 and 8, and then at
Wow.
that
Good
point I was
number.
like, I have a chance to do something with this. So
Definitely. And so you said you had made that big growth spurt. And what was your height now? You're like 6, 9?
I'm like 6'8", 6'8", like some
Okay.
teams, 6'9" with shoes, but 6'8", yeah.
6'9", athletic, averaging 15 and 8. Like you'll definitely have some opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and I love to hear that you had another plan. Like obviously every player wants to play and they want to play professionally and go overseas or make it to the NBA or get their shot in the G League or something like that. But I think so many guys put everything into that, and whether it works out or not, they don't have that backup plan. So even if they go and get overseas for a few years or make a good career out of it, then they don't have anything after that. So to hear that you had, things kind of lined up and you're working on your plan B while you're trying to attack your plan A, that's kind of the way you got to go about life. So, what was your thought process at that point? Did you have agents coming at you? Were you overwhelmed trying to do all this by yourself? Did you think it was realistic? Were you more towards the teaching side, saying, okay, I think this is more realistic for me, but I'll try overseas? Where were you at that point?
I was like, my goal was to get overseas. Like, I really wanted to continue to play, and I
Hmm.
said I'm going to try everything to make this happen. And if it doesn't happen, then I'll go to Plan B. So, like, I had some agents messaging me. Actually, one of the agents that messaged me was my agent in Germany the last few years. But
Okay.
I had a few agents that messaged me, and but I was doing a lot on my own. I went to a bunch of camps. I went to like the NBL Canada camp. I went to the NBA G League camp in New York. I
Hmm.
went to a camp in Bonn, Germany,
Oh
Slammers camp.
yeah. Was
Yeah,
that the Slammers?
I went to the Slammers camp. So I went
And
to
was
those.
that then your agent after that point?
Oh, actually, Isco wasn't my agent at that point, but there were like after I went to that camp and like I told him that I potentially could get a German citizenship.
Hmm.
Then some German agents started
Of course.
to
Yeah.
to contact me.
So then who was your agent the last couple of years in Germany?
Lothar Hermeling was my agent,
Okay.
and
Yep.
yeah, so he was my agent the last few years. He got me my 2 Pro A jobs I had, and
Nice.
yeah, it was a good relationship.
So are you still currently represented by them or anyone?
I'm with a new agency right now. What? Fred Sylvie Borga. It's another German agent.
Okay.
And, yeah, he got me my deal in Iceland this year, and has a good connection with Iceland.
Okay, great, great. So let's go back and go back to where you were when you're just getting out of college, and now all of a sudden you're trying to navigate through international basketball, which the system is so different from the U.S., from Canada, from college basketball. The recruiting is completely different, and it can be so chaotic. What were you doing at that point? How did you learn? What was your thought process?
So I went to a, a bunch of camps that summer, and I was just trying to figure out what to do. I was emailing agents, I was emailing teams. I went to the NBA G League camp in New York, and they gave me a contract for their draft. So
Okay.
that was pretty motivating for me. And then when I went to the Slammers camp in Germany, I got like top 5 at the camp. So I got some good feedback. I was waiting. They had a deal for me with the Iserlohn Kangaroos. They're regional league at
Oh yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
But
Now Pro B, I believe.
yeah, they're now Pro B. The money wasn't what I imagined the money was going to be when I got the contract. So I was like, no, I'm not going to take this. Like this is no money.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking, what was the offer? Because I think so many players are unrealistic about what it is when you start off as a rookie in a mid-level, lower level.
Yeah, it was something like 600 euros or 700 euros a month with, you know what I mean? It was something really small. And at that point, like they were going to help me get my passport and give me a place to stay and get into the system. Like I think it could have made sense to do it. But at that point, when I had a contract from the NBA G League for their draft, I was like, nah, I'm going to the G League. Like,
yeah, that makes sense. And at a higher level, and it looks way better on your resume if you get drafted.
So I was focused on that. And then I also had another coach that was contacting me from a team in Australia, which is actually where I ended up playing my first year in the state league in Australia.
Which one?
I was the Waratah League.
Okay, yeah. Which club were you with?
I was with Maitland Mustangs.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So this was the Premier one, the Division One. What was it at that point? Okay.
Yeah, it was they have a few different, like I think each state has a different league.
Yeah.
So in the one in New South Wales, it was their top state league.
Yeah, and I know they have like different divisions of that league too. They've got like the Premier or second division or something, and yeah, they've got many. Like in Australia, like you said, those different regions have different state leagues, and then the NBL is the top league, and they've even I think created the NBL One, which is now like a real second division. Like Australian basketball and New Zealand basketball has taken a huge step up. They're doing some great things over there. So what was that experience like for you after, like, did you get drafted by a G League team? Were you cut? Like, what was that? How did that lead you to Australia? Because the time frame for the Australian League is a different, the seasons are flipped. So basically like spring they start up and end in the fall?
All right. So the way the G League thing worked out, I went to the one in New York, got the contract, and then I went to I had my high school coach was kind of being my agent at that point. He was like my AU coach. He had become an agent. So he set up some more workouts for me to try out for some other teams. I went to a few teams. He talked to them. And at that point, they wanted me to get my own U.S. visa. The NBA G League did, because they didn't have the Raptors G League team in the league at that point. So they didn't really, Canadian players were something different. So they wanted me, to get my visa, but I had no idea how to get a visa at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult, very complicated.
So I couldn't figure it out. I tried to figure it out, but the day before the draft, like the commissioner of the G League calls me and said, "How do you have your visa?" And they had me on the list, and then when I told them I didn't have it, they took me off. So I didn't. So I didn't get drafted because I don't know if I would have gotten drafted or not, but I just didn't have the paperwork.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it works out that way, unfortunately. So that was a big bump in the road. Then what from there? I bet that was very demoralizing. You're like, man, I'm so close, and now it comes down to some documentation.
Yes, it was very, very demoralizing. So I had the deal in Germany that I turned down, and the guy was pissed at me. He was like, you won't be a pro player. You're not serious. I'm like,
wow. Yeah. Yeah. That happens too. You got to navigate through some difficult people, some bitter people, and
Yeah.
so and I'm sure at that point too, you're thinking, oh man, now I missed this opportunity. Don't know if another one's gonna come.
Yeah.
So I bet that was like just a real difficult time.
And it was tough. But I had this one coach that I put my profile up on some different online websites and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw my profile, and he contacted me about this opportunity in Australia. So I was like, around December, it was around the same time as the draft. I told him that I was interested if I didn't get into the G League.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also like the NBL combat I went to. I got invited to training camp with the Rainmen, the Hurricanes now.
Yep.
So like, but I didn't want to go to that because of the G League thing as well.
Right.
So I put all my eggs in that one basket, and it didn't work out for me. So luckily, the Australia thing worked out for me, because I think if I didn't get on there at that point, I would have had a gap in my resume that year.
Yeah.
It would
Could
have
have
been
derailed everything.
So like, I just got lucky, and a team in Australia wanted me to go out there. So I went out there, but it wasn't like fully professional. They paid
Yes.
for they paid for me for my flight, a place for me to stay, but they gave me a job that was associated with the team. So
Mm-hmm.
like, getting paid through that job, not through the team itself,
Mm-hmm.
but opportunity to be overseas, get some experience, be in a new culture. Like, they spoke English.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go to Australia, so it was a win-win for me.
Good place to start. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think you said it like you were lucky. Okay, there is an element of luck, but it also says a lot about you that, some players, like, they get that only that one shot, and they've got to take it no matter, how low the level is, no matter where it is, just to get their career going. But you had, some things fall through, and then people were reaching out because of your quality as a player, and probably your quality as your character too. That obviously helps extremely. Some guys just don't even know how to begin to speak to different coaches and just have that professionalism. So, that was great that you were able to get in at that time, when things seemed like they were collapsing. You had your first experience, which is a humbling experience. Now you're playing as an import and having to work another job, which is completely common. And also, you're at a level where you could be one of two imports, and the other guys are all, Australian young guys not getting paid, maybe even paying to play in the club, trying to work their way up. What was that experience like, being as a older guy, more mature in the game, and now you kind of have to take this leadership role of younger guys, younger players, and kind of dictate how the whole team runs. What was that like for you in Australia?
It was fun for me, because I went from a program where we had a pretty good team,
Mm-hmm.
and wasn't one of the leaders for many of the seasons until my
Right.
senior year. So like, for me to go into another leadership position, and there was me and another import, and to be honest, our team was pretty bad. Like, I was surprised by how bad the local players were at that point, because I was like, this is professional basketball. What is this?
Yeah, I
Because
think that's a lot of people don't understand that. Like, you may be a professional, but the team or the league may not be,
yeah,
especially at those lower levels, mid levels. That's very common.
yeah. So it hit me. I was like, what is this? And that, like, me and the other import, like, he played Division 1 basketball. Like, I played Division 1 in Canada, and we had to really like hold down the fort. Like, we had to do a lot of the scoring, a
Yeah.
lot of the defense, like everything. So it
Yep,
was
everything's
like,
on your shoulders as the import, as the guy they're paying. They're going to look at you.
yeah.
You're going to be the first guy that they send home, and the first guy they put all the responsibility on, not these young kids.
So it was an adjustment. I got used to it, and it was fun. Just like, being able just to ball out, just be able to play your game, like, no
Yep.
restrictions, because I had a pretty old school coach. It's very like in college, it was all about like being very disciplined, and
Mhm.
then here you take the leash off, and you just get to do what you want to do.
Yep.
So it was a good experience for me, just to get my confidence up and just play, and just be a leader. And yeah, it was fun. The guys are cool. Like, it was we weren't going to win a championship because, honestly, how far a team goes really depends on the level of the local players.
For sure. Great point. Great point.
Like you can be all world, but two guys can only do so much.
Exactly. Exactly. No, you're right about that. And I'm sure, just going, like you said, to another country, beautiful country, learning a new culture and making new friends. And now that kind of like puts something in you that you can't get, staying home or doing something else. Like it really like centers you and gives you a sense of the world and kind of like matures you at the same time, because now you're really having to be accountable for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a really good experience. You got like just seeing something different than what you're used to as well.
Hmm.
I mean, just different cultures and just, the different ways people play basketball, the different ways people relax, the different ways people are outside of the game or at work. Like there's all these different things you have to navigate now
Yep.
because
I'm sorry.
you're so used to the culture you grew up in, like North American culture, and then everyone else is a little bit different. You have to sort of figure your way through how different people operate.
Exactly. No, you're right, 100%. And you also see like the different approaches to the game.
Yeah.
As you've seen, I'm sure, Canadian basketball is a little bit different from Australian basketball, which is a little bit different from German basketball, which is a little bit different from Icelandic basketball. Like you get this broad sense of the game, and you see different approaches, different coaching styles, and I think that also adds to building your game, building your character on and off the floor. And also it's, I think there's something to be said when you go outside of your comfort zone. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can go to another country and live there. I think so many guys are like, yeah, I want to play overseas. I want to play overseas. And they only think about getting paid to play basketball. They don't think about, oh, I'm really out here.
Yeah.
And there's no going back. I'm not here for a week or two on a vacation. I'm living here. You know what I mean? So it's like, like I said, there's something so great about putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, out of that realm of this is all easy, I know what's going on, to where you got to think, you got to figure things out. And I think for you, starting, I did the same thing. My first international experience was going to the NBL Canada. So it was an easier transition to go to a similar place with the same language. And I think that was probably helped you then transition to going to, a European country where now you got a different language, a whole different culture, all that stuff, which can be very difficult. So that's amazing. Your experience in Australia, I think, really helped you, kind of navigate through the rest of your career. So what happened from that point in Australia?
Okay, so at the end of our Australian season, I had a pretty bad like ankle injury. Like I rolled my ankle real bad. I had to be in a boot, and the team wanted me to rush back to play.
Yep.
But we only had like, I don't know, there was like a month left in the season. We weren't going to make playoffs. I was like, I could rush back and play on this, but I was just like, no, I can't. I can't do this.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. So I rehabbed. I asked them for, I was like, I need to get my ticket home. Like there's a month left in the season. I'm hurt. I'm out here. It was a lot because like when you're having to do everything and be that top guy and do everything, it's a lot of your body. You're not used to that as well. And then you're also not used to not having the trainers around, having like all the medical staff you have in college, like everything that you're used to having to help prepare your body is not there. So you have to do it on your own as well. So it's like
great point.
Getting adjusted to that is something that you have to manage your own body now. You don't have a university trainer or assistant coach or this or that, everyone helping you out. Now it's just like, okay, I got to figure this out on my own. And that can be tough for a lot of players as well, because you're going from having someone, schedule everything for you, but now you have to figure it all out by yourself.
Exactly. Thank you so much for saying that. I think that's one of the like keys that you brought to this conversation, because so many guys think that they're going to a situation like the NBA just because it's like a professional,
just because it's a different system, I think everybody thinks that every team and everything overseas is professional, and it's not. Like only the highest of the highest leagues have things and facilities and trainers and medical stuff similar to what you find at these universities back in North America. For the most part, you are completely on your own. You've got to be so motivated to get in the weight room, to take care of your body, to take care of your nutrition, to do things completely. It's all up to you because they will expect that you're at the top of your game. And if you think that they are going to, like you said, schedule everything for you, be on top of you, have all this stuff at your disposal, it's not there. It's not there. You've got to really maximize what you're doing and your potential on your own. Great point. I love that you said that. So keep going. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, no problem. So like I was dealing with an injury, and then I was working the job I was working. I was doing like data entry.
Mm-hmm.
Boring. You're looking at a computer all day. I'm like,
Yep.
oh my God, what am I doing here? So, but I just wanted that opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
I did that for as long as it was sustainable for me. When it got to the last month of the season, they were trying to get me to play on a bad ankle. I was just like, no, I got to go home. So I went home, and I knew the team in Halifax was interested in me. I'd been there for 5 years in university. They contacted me like after my senior year, and then when I went to the camp, they told me they wanted me to come to camp.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had that connection there, and I actually told a Canadian agent that. And then he's like, "Oh, I got a contract for you." And the next thing I know, he got a contract from the team that was the Halifax team, which I already basically had that contract. But like a lot of agents are very like, if they can they can get that 10%.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So now you're going from, it seems like obviously the team in Australia was a big step back from the level of play at Dalhousie. Okay.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to go to the NBL Canada where you've got, good local Canadian players,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got really good imports. So then now going from Australia, knowing your college experience, now where does the NBL sit on that ranking as far as level of play?
Well, at that point, it was the highest level I'd ever played.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, for me, it was an adjustment to that level, because I was used to being like one of the most athletic guys, like one of the biggest, like, I had a physical advantage in that on those, like playing in the youth sports in Canada or playing in Australia, that gave me an advantage. Now I had to figure out a new advantage because everyone was athletic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So now
and guys are huge in that league.
guys are huge. Like I wasn't the biggest guy, I wasn't the most athletic guy, and I was like, okay, how do I find a role? So for me, I just focused on just trying to be as physical as I could, rebounding, being that garbage player, because
Mm-hmm.
not everyone wanted to do that. So I found out that could be, my niche in that league. So I brought energy. I just tried my best to play as hard as I could. And it was similar to like when I was my first years at Dalhousie, because that's what they wanted me to do. And then I had 2 seasons where I was like the go-to guy. Then I had to go back to a level where I wasn't the go-to guy anymore. So I had to adjust my game. So the level was very high. They had high Division I players. Like I had guys from, big time schools
Mm-hmm.
like UCLA, Arkansas, Ohio State. Like, these are high major players.
Yep.
And
Yep. You even find some guys sometimes with NBA experience.
yeah. I had my first year. I had a guy who played with Steph Curry and the Warriors. He was there in the training camp.
Yep.
So he had NBA experience. There was a few NBA players I played against. I played against Royce White. I
Yep.
was guarding him when he played in London Lightning. And there was a few other, like J.R. Smith's brother and some other guys. Like there was a few NBA players in that
Yeah.
league.
Yeah, I remember with Halifax when I was there, we had Billy White, who now is
Yep.
with Moncton. He was the MVP this past year. Fantastic left-handed forward. I'm sure you remember him. He had been in the training camp with the Miami Heat,
Mm-hmm.
So there's, lots of talent in that league.
Yeah, Billy White was fun to play against. Yeah, I love playing against him. I tried my best to stop him. It was tough to stop that guy. Like
He's
he
talented, yeah.
can play. So yeah, it was fun because I had to. NBL Canada was like, I really felt like a real professional, because
Yep.
everyone's a professional player in the league. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
getting paid. It's a dogfight. But like at the end of the day, like the first year, I felt that I should have been playing more than I did, and I had to learn the politics of the game. If
Hmm.
a player is an import and is getting paid twice as much as you,
Yeah.
he's gonna play over you. Like even if some games you play well, doesn't guarantee you're gonna get your number called the next day.
Right.
Or if
Right.
you play better than him in practice, it doesn't matter because there are other things that are working other than just like this and that. This guy's getting paid more, so he has to get this opportunity or he's gonna get cut. So
Exactly. Yeah, they're expecting more out of that because they're putting in a higher investment.
yeah.
And again, I think for you, that is another very mature and realistic view of what's going on. So many guys get in their feelings in their own head, and they don't understand stuff like that. And another thing I like about what you're saying is, and this is so crucial to being a professional basketball player, you have had to accept many different roles based on what team you're at, what league you're at, what country you're in. And that's the sign of a true professional because there's so many guys, they can only play if they've got the ball in their hands. They can only play if they're the best player. They can't play with other good players. They can't take a different role. They can't see the game from a different angle. So I think that, after I was speaking before the interview, I think that is why you've had such a long and fruitful career because you've been able to do that. And,
Yeah.
and I think that is crucial. And so many guys, they can't, and that limits them, and they can't even see that. So now, moving forward, so, you're taking a role because you think that's where you can flourish. And how did that season end up for you? What was then the turning point after that? Did you stay in the NBL? Did you move on?
So that season was a rocky season. Like from training camp at the beginning, only me and one other player started from the first day of training camp to the final season.
Typical. That's NBL Canada and NBA G League. High turnover. Guys are in and out. It's a revolving door.
Yeah, it was. I'd never had so many teammates in my life. It was
Yep.
just one guy
Yeah.
comes in, one guy goes out. One guy comes in. I'm just like, what is going
Yeah,
on?
I experienced the same thing when I got my first experience doing an internship with the Maine Red Claws, the
Yeah,
Boston Celtics affiliate, and it was the exact same thing. Guys were just in and out, and from one week to the next, there was a completely different team. And
yeah,
like you said, there was only a few guys that were there from day one till the very last day.
yeah. There was a rookie. He was performing well for what he was getting paid, and there was also me that had good value for what I was getting paid. So
Hmm.
they kept us on because they knew that economically,
Right,
we're, you're not going to get better for what you're paying.
right,
So
right.
every other guy that had bigger contracts, as soon as we weren't winning games, cut new guy in, cut new
Mhm.
guy in, cut new guy in. It was a completely different team by the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. And so like some guys will look at that like, oh, that's cutthroat. Oh, that, but you got to look at that from every angle. Like, management is looking at we've got to field a competitive team to keep our sponsorships, to stay in the league, to keep our fans coming. Coaches are like, I've got to have at least like a playoff contending team so I can keep my job. Like everybody is fighting for their lives. Every single day you're proving yourself at that level.
Yeah. So like we had a coach at the beginning. He got fired. We brought in Craig Hodges, who played with Michael Jordan in the '90s, first three-peat. And it was cool playing for him because he taught me so much about basketball. He taught me so much about the game, about just like life outside of it. Like he was like the Black Lives Matter thing that's happening now. He was all about that back then. Like he was all like he says he got blackballed from the NBA because he was too political. And
Wow, that's interesting. I've never heard that about him. Well,
yeah,
that's great. That says a lot about him because he was a fantastic point guard, and obviously he's been coaching a lot around the world, and so that's really interesting. Something I don't think a lot of people would know. So thank you
yeah.
for that.
And he could still play. Like he won the 3-point contest 3 times. I think only him and Larry Bird had done that.
Wow.
And like sometimes he would practice with us, and he could still play. Like he was,
How old was he at the time?
I think he was like late 40s or early 50s.
Oh,
Around
wow.
he would practice with us, and he'd still get buckets sometimes. So it was
Hey, there you
fun.
go. That's an NBA champion right there.
Yeah, exactly. So he taught us a lot, and I was excited to come back and play for him my second season. But then at that point, Phil Jackson got the job at the Knicks, and then he
Mhm.
brought him on as an assistant with the Knicks G League team. Then he got the interim head coaching job at the Knicks G League team as well at one point.
Well,
So
good for him. Step up there.
exactly. So we had a new coach came in, a Spanish guy, Pep Claros, and this guy was crazy. Like this guy was just like running us to the floor. And he was a good coach. He knew basketball, but he just like I don't think he understood how the human body worked.
Especially for older players, like you can't, when you're at the youth level, definitely, but with older players, you can't run them in the ground like that. They're going to get injured. It's not conducive to good output. And Spanish basketball is amazing, one of the highest leagues in the world, and the most sought after coaches too.
Yeah.
So I believe he knew the game. But from that aspect, I think a lot of, especially like in these big leagues in Europe, they take that approach, and it's just not conducive to good output for older guys.
Yeah, it's not like so. Like I did training camp with them. He liked my game. Like I played hard. I was a hustle guy. Did what he wanted, but management they offered me a little bit less money than I had the year before. So I took it as a slap in the face. So I walked away because I put in a year with the team. They knew what I was about, and for whatever reason, like I didn't get the offer I wanted. So the coach from the Island Storm wanted me to come there. So I told him that I was going to go out there, and he said, "Okay, give me some time because like there's a high turnover. Once they decide to release a guy, they're going to release a guy, and then they were going to bring me in." But I also got a call from my assistant coach the previous year, and he was a scout and like a coach with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted me to do that. I wasn't so sure I wanted to do show basketball, but the money was pretty good from what he told me about it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go where the money is, because you have to, sometimes you have to make decisions based on how you can live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, especially as you get a little older, and you're done with your first opportunity, that becomes a big thing. You got to look at long term. You got to look at because a lot of times, on the off season, you may have 4 months. You're not getting paid from that team. You're on your own. You're having to work camps, do training, or maybe play in like you did in Australia, New Zealand, where it's offset just to make that money. Kind of like how you see WNBA players playing in Europe, and they come back for the summer. So that I understand that. And to go back to what you were saying about management in Halifax, if a club feels like you're a nice guy and you're going to put up with something, they'll try to put something over on you like that and see if you'll just handle it and take it. And I think you made the right move by saying, hey, I'm worth more than this. I've got other interests. It's time to part ways and not be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So good for you in doing that. So now, what happened with the Island Storm? Did they release a guy, brought you in? How did that work?
So they wanted to bring me in, but I had this tryout with the Harlem Globetrotters. So I took the tryout instead of going to the Island Storm.
Okay.
And so I took the tryout. I did well. They told me they were going to bring me in, but you never know how these things work. I kept waiting. They're saying, okay, we're going to bring you in soon. We're going to bring you in soon. And then soon turned into a few months. And then at that point I was like, I got to figure out something else.
Right.
And, I started doing like coaching kids, doing some new training to make some money. And then I signed with the Island Storm the following season because I just couldn't wait forever for soon,
Exactly. Yeah. And if they can keep you on the hook and, while they're looking at you and keeping you on that hook, they're looking to try to find another player or a better player or, so, you got to do what's best for you because they're trying to do what's best for them.
Exactly. It's a business.
Yeah.
So, like the GM or whoever brought the players in, he's like, yeah, I like your game, but kept saying, yeah, just be patient. But I was just like,
you can't. Yeah, it's your career. You only got so much time. You got to do what's right for you.
So yeah, I went to the Island Storm. I had a good season, but at that point, I was kind of getting fed up of not having my role increased with the teams.
Mm-hmm.
Just felt like there was always new players coming in. There was never really an opportunity for me to develop as a professional player. Like I was in the same role every year, and like we had a decent year. We had a good run, and then I wanted to try and find my way overseas after that. So I went online, actually went on those Facebook groups, and I actually got a job in Italy playing Serie C.
Just
And
posting your highlights and
yeah,
your just little info about you. Okay.
yeah, I posted my highlights out there. That summer, I went for a cash tournament in China. Um,
Nice.
I did that. Our team won in China, and I was just like trying to get overseas. I was just posting highlights. I took a job that was a pay cut to go to Italy, but I just wanted to see something different because,
Yeah.
I wasn't really enjoying the game as much. You have so many players that are in and out. You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
having that team environment. You're not really having
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes business like takes the fun away from basketball.
Yeah. So I just felt like, you're in this revolving door that's never really going anywhere, and you're just along for a ride, and you're not really
Yeah.
enjoying the game anymore.
And you're not in control of it either. You know.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, if they're paying you to play a role, that's the role you got to play. Even if your game expands, even if this happens, then you never even get the opportunity to really show
Mm-hmm.
what you're working on the off season. If, all right, we want you to come in for 10 minutes a game, play some defense, grab some rebounds. That's what we're paying you to do. That's your role in this league. So I felt like I had to start over and take another step in my career because it was just getting pretty stagnant in NBL Canada.
Yeah, I understand. So now you transfer over to Italy. Where were you in Italy?
I was in Francavilla Fontana. It's close to Brindisi. It's in, like, if Italy's like a boot, it's in the heel of the boot in the Puglia
Wow,
region.
okay. Okay.
So it
So
was
southern Italy. Wow.
southern
I bet
Italy.
the weather it must have been beautiful there. The
Weather was
scenery.
beautiful, food was beautiful.
Yep.
Like, it was really nice experience. Yeah, there was me and one other import. He was an American point guard from Chicago. And yeah, we did better than they expected. Like, they just didn't want to drop because they had a really young team,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want to drop. They weren't concerned with winning the league or anything. They just wanted to have their young guys get experience
And maintain the level.
and maintain a
And
level.
now, so Series C, they've got A is the top, which is very high level, high paying, high level imports. A2, then they got what B, and then now C is what C gold, C silver. They got D, and then
Yeah,
so what was it just C at the time, or did they have silver and gold?
it was Sea Gold.
Okay,
So it's a Sea Gold club. They didn't want to drop down. Serie B is only for Italian players. You can't
Yep.
in Serie B if you don't have Italian passport. So it's tough to move up from that level. That level, it's a hard gap. It's
Yeah.
you're not really moving up in Italy from Serie C because you can't go to Serie B. It's not like some countries where you can work up this level to this level to this level. It's like a very big gap, and then it's
Yeah.
so. But it was a good first European experience for me. So, like, I got to see the relegation system, how it really worked,
Mm-hmm.
like European basketball, the movement, the style, it's completely different.
Right.
And
Right. More of a team game than North America.
exactly. So it was the ball moved around a lot.
Right.
There was a lot more 3-point shooting. There was a lot more ball movement and less isolation play. And
Yep. Less
you know,
athleticism, more like you said, more skill.
yeah. So it was good for me to get into that system, to be one of the two imports, and to just really, like, I guess, find my love for the game again.
Mm-hmm.
So, get overseas, be in a different culture, be in the first country that wasn't an English speaking country for me.
Right.
It was kind of a cool experience. It was a little bit tough adjusting,
Yeah.
but
Of course. Of course.
I started to figure it out.
Did you
And
learn a little Italian to be able to
uh,
function?
poco Italian.
Okay, I got you.
So,
So
like,
now talk about the level a little bit. You went from, NBL Canada was your highest experience.
yeah,
Now you're going to, Italy, C Gold. What was the level there?
it was higher than the team I played for in Australia.
Yep.
Like, there was some scouting. There was better scouting. That we had a good trainer. We had certain things were higher. Our arena, we were in a really small little
Mm-hmm.
gym, but some teams were playing in, like, huge former, like, Serie A arenas as well
Wow.
that are completely empty.
Yeah. It's a weird feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like I just felt like I learned a lot about the game, like the tactics and like the level of play with some players is really low as well. Like there's some players that are pretty low. There's some players that were in between. That it was a mixed bag. Like there was a few players that were pretty good. There was like some old former Serie A, Serie B players that were like at the tail end of their career, and there were younger players that were trying to get up to that level,
Right.
And some guys in between. So it was like it was a solid level. I wouldn't say that it was super high, but it wasn't super low either. Like there was pretty good teams in the league. It was a pretty good experience. The imports are very good.
Yeah.
So it was a good level of basketball.
Okay, so then, how was your experience with the team? Did you get paid on time? Were you ever, was there any problems with that? I mean, it's normally how it goes in Europe. They try to take any angle they can. They'll say, oh, the sponsors, the this, the that. What was that like?
I was never paid on time. I was never paid on time. I was always paid in cash. I didn't have a bank account.
Right.
I don't even think I was legally in the country.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been through the same experiences. Teams here it's like the Wild West.
Yeah.
And if they can try to do something, they will. It's a lot of times you'll find that I think there's much more emphasis on character with basketball in North America.
Mm-hmm.
The coaches try to instill character on the kids. You try to have, not saying there's not, problems there, but I think there's much less character in basketball in Europe. Now I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this. A lot of my network is European, but I believe that to be true.
Yeah, you can find some unsavory characters depending on where you go. I don't want to burn any bridges, but yeah, I
No, yeah, I understand. I understand completely what you're saying. But yeah, so what was that like then? Your experience is like you're not getting paid. I mean, that could be frustrating. It can, your output can go down, your productivity, either they don't realize it or they don't care and expect you just to play through all that.
Yeah, like I remember like we're waiting for our money for so long sometimes. Like they're like, oh, it's going to be a little bit late, but luckily the money always came. I got everything I was promised. That was paid to me. But sometimes it would be a month late. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like I remember one time I was waiting for my money for the longest time, and then I had a good game, and the guy takes the money out of his pocket and hands it to me, and I'm just like, what is going on here?
Yep.
Or we had meals included, and
oh, that's good. That's good because if you were getting that money late and you were trying to eat off that, oh boy.
Yeah. Luckily, we had 2 meals a day, so like I didn't have to worry. We had a place to live, so I didn't have to worry about that stuff living. But just like you're playing, you're like, when am I going to get my money?
Right.
It was frustrating. So, and sometimes they would give us like if we didn't win, we get shittier food the next day. You're getting worse food. You're like, what is this?
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
They play little head games. They mess with you.
Yeah.
And I had the coach there at the time. He wanted us to do well, but not too well, because he wanted to do better his next season. Like
that's crazy.
It's crazy, Like I remember, like, because we'd be having our dinner. He has some wine. Then all of a sudden, the truth comes out. I was like, yeah, I want. I want us to do well, but I don't want us to make the playoffs this year. I want us to make the playoffs next year. It shows that I'm bringing the team in the right way.
Oh man, that's so you see his motives. Now, how was his English? Could he speak English pretty well, or was there a lot of communication problems?
There were a lot of communication problems. Like he would get heated and he would just scream at me in Italian, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
At all. Like in the middle of the game, he's screaming at me in Italian, and I'm just like me and him, we had some back and forth. It's like it was frustrating because you have this guy, and he's like super passionate, all in your face, screaming at you in another language, and then I still want you to come at me like a man, come at me with respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wasn't used to some little guy screaming at me in Italian all day. It was frustrating at times.
Yeah,
So,
and that's something like players don't quite understand is that type of stuff happens all the time, and you really have to, especially in a different culture, and him doing this in a different language, you really have to maintain your cool, because if you are somebody that fluctuates a lot and that gets to you and you lash out, who is everybody going to look at? Not the Italian guy. They know what he's saying,
Yeah.
right? He's normal to them. They're going to look at the guy who's not from here, who's not speaking Italian, and you're going to be the problem. You're going to be the issue, right?
Yeah. And that's how it goes. So
Yes.
like like he would get under my skin, to be honest. Like, so I had a rough like it was a good, and it was like highs and lows, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it was there, like, yeah, they had highs and lows. Like, it was a tough situation because you're always getting paid late. You have
Yep.
an emotional coach.
Yep.
You're battling with the club for what you should get, at the same
Yes.
time trying to play for the club.
Yep.
So, at that point I started to miss NBL Canada a bit, because I was like, at least I'm getting paid on time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You start to take, so you're taking those things for granted, and now you go to this different situation, and you're like, man, that at least there was this that I didn't even think about going into this situation. But I think you are describing the most typical basketball situation for an import player, no matter what level you're at overseas. I
Yeah.
think so many guys deal with this, and a lot of players who are not overseas, who are coming out of college, who are rookies, they look at it like, man, these guys are living the life. They're out in Italy. There is so much stress put on you from exactly what you're talking about, that it's even hard to want to go to practice. It's even hard to be productive. And because you're so frustrated with your situation, the fact that you are not every single day, there is some element of being uncomfortable because you're in a different country. You're around people that you have to give them all of your trust. You're relying on them completely for your well-being. So I understand how that could be so frustrating. So now, going from Italy, finishing that season, did you say I'm done with Italy? Did you say I'm done with Europe? Like, what did you do after that?
So the season we did well. We exceeded expectations with the team we had. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
weren't going to drop down. We were like the top half of the middle of the league. We
Okay.
were to making playoffs. Actually, we could have qualified for playoffs, but then the team suddenly didn't have the budget for imports anymore. Like, they're like, oh,
Ah,
lost a sponsor. We can't
uh-huh.
afford to keep the imports
Interesting.
on. So we got released it was in like February. So
That's
I was
amazing. Even when you're playing well, when your team's doing well, it's like they have different motives. Like, oh, we don't want to do too well. Like, it's some of the
exactly.
things that you can't make this stuff up.
It was crazy. So, like, in February, I was actually talking to my old coach from the Island Storm,
Hmm.
and he's the coach in the Moncton now with the team
Right.
Billy
Yep.
plays for. And yeah, he said that they were looking for a Canadian player as well, so they brought me in. And so I luckily only had a week off. Like, I went from Italy, had a week off in Toronto, then I was in PEI to play for the Island Storm again, like,
Wow.
a week later.
Wow.
So
That's very fortunate.
yeah, like, it worked out for me well.
Hmm.
So I finished the season there. So I had a full season. I got like more than half it in Italy, and then the rest in NBL Canada. And I made the most of it. Like, I appreciated it. I was like, okay, this is okay.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you're a high commodity in Canada because they're always looking for really good Canadian players. You need that. What is it now? I think it went from 4 when I was there to then 5 the next
Yeah,
year. Canadians that you have to have. So, and a lot of times they're just pulling guys that can just fill that spot, sit on the bench. So if you have somebody that can actually get in there and contribute, and especially as a post player, you're always going to be valued in that league.
yeah, yeah. So it was good. Like, I feel like I will always have value in that league.
Hmm.
It's nice. It's a nice safety net to have if you build a relationship there. I haven't played in the past few years, but yeah, it's a good experience, and it's
Hmm.
a good safety net to have.
For sure. What do you think about the new league, the CEBL?
I was happy with it. I played in it this past summer.
Oh, really? Which team?
Yeah, with the Guelph Nighthawks.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that they really focus on the
Yeah.
Canadian players.
Yep.
They have 2 import spots, and then the rest are local players. Like, it was fun. The one issue I had with the league was the payment structure that they did. I don't know if they've changed it, but basically they pay you per game
Really?
versus at that point they were paying per game versus monthly contracts. Like you're getting paid this amount per month or this amount every 2 weeks. Like so you had to be on the active roster for that game to get paid.
Wow, wow. Okay, I see. I mean, as a small league just starting, they're trying to take their angles to make things cost effective for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see that. Yeah.
So it's like if they have 15 guys on the roster and they're dressing 9, then there's 6 guys that aren't really going to get paid for that week.
Right. Wow. But they gave you housing and did you have food included? What was the deal there?
Food stipend if you didn't play. So basically it's like a battle and every week to see who gets dressed for that game. So I did that for like 2 months, a month and a half. And I dressed in 4 out of the 6 games I played, and then I was just kind of like, I don't know, I was fed up with having to guess whether or not I was going to be on the roster this week.
The uncertainty as a player is tough. I can see how, from a management coaching standpoint, you're saying, well, we're going to create very competitive practices because guys are literally fighting to have that spot so they'll get paid. So I can see how they're doing it as a young league, but I can also see as a player how that would just be very frustrating.
And it was advertised as more of a summer league for you to come home from your season. And like they were like, yeah, practices aren't going to be too hard, going to be nice to be at home, play in front of your family, your friends. Then next thing you know, you're battling every week for a spot. And I was like, man, I just finished a season in Germany. Like, I just finished an 8-month season. This is a lot.
For sure.
To go 8-month season to battling for a spot every week.
Yep.
And then you want some time off as well, so you can recover and get to.
Of course, before you go back to wherever you're going, you need some downtime. It's only healthy for you. Let's backtrack a little bit and let's go. So you did finish the season with the Island Storm.
Yep.
And then now what at that point? I mean, you're pretty much you're a good way into your career. You've got a handle on pro basketball. You've been overseas. You understand how things work. Now, where's your mindset at this point as now a veteran player?
So as a veteran player, I was just looking for the best situation for me at that point. I had offers from like half the NBL Canada teams. Like I had like 4 or 5 different teams that were interested, and I was trying to figure out where to go, like which situation was the best one for me. Also at that point, I got an email from the German consulate asking if I was ever going to finish my application for German citizenship.
Really? They followed up with you? I'm very surprised at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Germans are very on point with things. So
yeah, that's true. Very organized. They get stuff done. That's one thing I say I can really appreciate about Germany. They are extremely organized.
Yeah. So when I was in Italy, actually, I was dealing with like everything that was happening there. The point guard, he played in Pro A Germany is his rookie year. So he was like, man, things are so much better in Germany. I wish I was back there. And then that same time I got an email from them asking me to follow up. So I had to get like a few more documents, like 4 or 5 documents. I had to get some from the Bahamas. I had to get some from Canada. And I had to so I took a trip to the Bahamas, got those documentations done. I also...
And just for clarification, so you were born in the Bahamas, right? I was
born in the Bahamas. And my mom's from the Bahamas and my dad's Canadian. But his parents are from Germany. So so I was eligible. So I had the Canadian and the Bahamian passport, so I could play as a Cotonou player.
Yep. Wow, so, you got the EU passport, you got the Cotonou passport, like you got it, and a North American passport. Man, you got the longest end of the stick there.
So that really helps. Like the passport situation really helped, because at that point.
What did you have to do? What was involved? So obviously you needed the ancestry. You're not just going to, unless a team, now you see this sometimes with national teams of very good players. You're like, well, this guy's not Slovenian. He's from Texas and he's playing on their national team because they work something out with their government. But for you to try to now take advantage of, your ancestry, what was all needed to, and I know every country is a little different, but what was all needed? Basically, like a lot of the things are the same: birth certificates, marriage certificates, this and that. What did you need to submit to Germany?
I needed, birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates,
Mm-hmm.
certificates of whether or not like my grandfather became a Canadian citizen or when he did. I needed like
Lots of stuff.
my parents'
Very
marriage
time consuming.
certificate, my grandparents' marriage certificate,
Wow.
everyone's birth and death certificates, everyone's like entry into this country at this point.
Wow.
I needed a letter from the Bahamian government to verify that my dad never became a Bahamian citizen. Like I had to literally go down there and use a connection to get that letter because it's impossible to get a letter from the Caribbean government, like from a country in the Caribbean, like to get them to send something abroad, you have to physically go down there and get it yourself. So it was like I was playing a game, like just trying to collect all these different pieces of the puzzle.
Man, that's so much stuff. Very time consuming. Must have been a headache. I ran into the same thing. I have Italian ancestry, and it's the exact same as what you're talking about. You need marriage certificate, death certificate, proving that they were a citizen at the time of this person's birth and that and this, and it became so overwhelming. I just stopped the whole process.
That's what I did. I stopped the whole process, and then I tried doing all of that when I first came out, and then I was just like, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
Then at that point, they sent me the email. So I said, how many documents do I need?
Mm-hmm.
And I needed 4 more. So I just went on a mission that summer to figure out the best way to get those 4 documents. And I was able to get them, fortunately. And then by the time my following season, I was in, it was like November, they sent me an email saying that I had been approved for citizenship.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm sure that greatly enhanced your career at that point. That was such a humongous move for you because now that opened up a lot of doors that you didn't have before. Now you're going from, so as a Canadian, you're playing at a high level, but when you're going over as an import, you're playing at lower levels. When you talk about Australia, you talk about Italy, but now you get this opportunity in Germany to play at the Pro A level, correct? Was that right away as soon as you got that citizenship, you moved over there?
Yeah, it was almost like within a month I was able to get a job over there. So it was a really big year that year because I got I renewed my Bahamian passport. I hadn't had that. It expired a few years ago. I never got it renewed. And then I got an opportunity to play for the Bahamas national team during the FIBA World Cup qualifiers.
Wow.
As well. So I went down there. I tried out. It wasn't really a tryout. They gave me a workout. Some of the coaches, they liked my game because I had been away from the Bahamas for so long. They didn't really know me down there. So, I had a friend that was connected with the team. I asked her to hook me up with the coach so I could do a workout. They liked my game. Then they flew me down to play against Canada, actually, and I think we played Canada and the Dominican Republic.
Wow. What was that like? What was that experience like, playing against your home country for your birthplace?
Yeah, it was cool because we actually played the game in Halifax in the
awesome
bank center there. So
I bet that was very meaningful for you.
It was like full circle.
Yeah.
And, like I'm playing against like Anthony Bennett, and I'm like, wow, I'm really here now. You know what I mean? It was like a huge jump in my career.
Of course. So then now that springboard, that opened up a lot of doors for you and springboarded you. I think so many guys are consumed sometimes with, okay, I'm at this level. I'm not able to move up. How can I do this? And it only takes like you said, getting the passport. It only takes like one opportunity after that to put yourself on the map, and you got to be ready for it. So you were ready for it, and you took advantage of it completely, and that landed you obviously where you've been and put you in a position to compete against some great players. Obviously, Anthony Bennett being a #1 draft pick and an NBA player and putting you on the national team level. I mean, that's very impressive. Congratulations for that.
Yeah, it was a big win for me because it was like at this point where I was feeling like so kind of stagnant and stuck in my career for a few years, and I was like, okay, I can either play at a low level overseas or a bench player like in Canada. So it was like I was going between these two levels, and it was kind of like it was tough. You're just like you're
Mm-hmm.
on a treadmill trying to get forward, and you're not really.
You're not going anywhere. Yeah. So you're like, all right, I'm going to continue to play this role in Canada and be comfortable with, getting my money on time and being in my home country, my language, or I'm going to go overseas, play at a lower level, have a bigger role, which is fun, but have to deal with not getting paid on time, being, dealing with different language, different culture, the struggles that come with that, being away from your family. So now this kind of helped you move to kind of in between, right? As you go transition to Germany, I'm sure at the Pro A level, you didn't have to deal with the same things you were dealing with in Italy, correct? Or am I mistaken?
The money was always on time. Everything was good with the club. I had a car, had my own apartment. It was a big upgrade for me. Like everything was taken care of. All my documentation was done, bank account, social security, like everything was lined up. The club had ice bath, they had trainers, full-time staff. Like it was like, okay, this is good,
Real basketball, yeah.
it
Those
was
top
real.
level teams, BBL, Pro A, it's more similar to what you see, back in the States as far as the whole culture, the whole atmosphere of basketball.
Mm-hmm. So it was really good. Like everyone could play the game. Like there was higher, like there was different, like the imports were pretty good. There were some really good local players that were really good. Like, and the team as a whole, like we worked well together. Like it wasn't just isolation. It wasn't just, like the import has to go one-on-one, or like everyone's trying to just play up and down basketball. It was like good team basketball, good high IQ basketball. Everyone played their role. Everyone fit into their position, and it was more balanced. I like that. At that level, everything was more balanced.
So now you completed the season with that team.
Yeah.
And how did you guys finish? Because they were teetering back and forth, BBL, Pro A.
So we finished. We made it to the semifinals. We were like 2 wins away from moving up that season.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a really good year. Like we in Trier, the first round of the playoffs, we played against a team that was a higher seed, and we beat them. So I think we were the 6th seed, they were the 4th seed or something, and we beat them in, what was it, 6 games or 7 games? I can't remember exactly how many games it was. I think it was a 5 game, game 5. Game 5 we beat them, and we played against the number 1 team, and we won the first game. And then they won they won the next 3 in a row after that. Mm-hmm. But it was a really fun season, because when I got there, the team was struggling a lot. And then when I got there, we won I think it was 7 games in a row or something like that. You know what I mean? Like we got really hot.
Yeah, I'm sure that solidified your position. I'm thinking that was a good move to have you in there. And
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you finished the season there, and I bet that reinvigorated you that summer. Like you're like, okay, I've really got now a good position. I'm on top of this. This summer, I'm going to try to probably, heal up and improve my game and ready to go for that next season, right? Because I'm assuming you're thinking I'm going back to either the same team or that same level, correct?
Exactly. So the summer, I played with the national team again, and I was ready to go back to that level. I signed with a different team in the same league. Mm-hmm. I told my agent, okay, I needed to get minimum this amount of money, and he looked at the different teams in the league, and we were able to negotiate and find a good quality team in the league that was able to pay me. And I did some more stuff with the Bahamas national team that summer. I had a good summer.
Awesome.
And I went back for training camp with the new club, and then at the end of training camp, I break my foot.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
back in that devastating point, you're on top of the world, and then boom, going back down.
Yeah. So it was like, man, like this. I was depressed at that point. I was in a boot for 4 months, and
that's basketball too. You can be just on top of the world, and that next moment you're at the very bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So luckily I was in Germany, where they made sure I got healthy. Mm-hmm. They didn't release me from the club for getting hurt, because some countries they do that.
Of course, yeah. Peace out. Yep.
Yeah, so they the way that works, if the player gets hurt, they get half the money, and insurance gets paid to them so they can use that money to sign another player.
Mm-hmm.
So they kept continuing to pay me my salary, and I was just rehabbing. So that was a good thing. And I was able to come back in February. I think I was healthy, but I had to get back in shape.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get back in game rhythm. And there was another player that they had brought in as my replacement already. So I had to try and find minutes when my spot was already filled.
Right. So how did that work out for you?
It was a tough end of the season. The coach that brought me in, he got fired as well. So
Okay, so now you got to deal with a new coach who built a whole new relationship. You don't even know if he appreciates you being there, your game. Wow. Okay, that's difficult.
He didn't really like my game, to be honest. So it was like the coach that brought me in. I had a new coach that didn't really appreciate my game. I ended up playing like 5 minutes a game at the end of the season, like for like it would be a DNP or like 5 to 10 minutes a game, and it was like I played like the last 8 games of the season and in and out whether or not I was going to play that game, and I averaged like I think like 1 point a game or something. So the following like 1.1 rebound or something like that. So the following season I was like what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Because
so what ended up happening that following year?
So I was like looking for a job. Like I played like after that season I played the CEBL to get back in shape.
Yep.
And that helped me get back into shape. And it was a battle. I was one of the older guys in the team. I helped the team out. Like it was good because we had like what was it? 20 guys came to training camp. I made the team. I was on the opening day roster. I was fighting through that. But I was also commuting from Toronto every day to like an hour and a half away for practice.
Oh, that's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, like I had the option to stay there, but I wanted to be close to family after.
Of course, being overseas so much, yeah, I understand completely.
Yeah, so I wanted to be close to friends and family, so I did the commute. And then after that, I was trying to find a job. I was with my agent that got me the last 2 jobs, and he kept saying, "Okay, we have a team that's interested," but never got a contract. So I'm there like a team's interested, no contract. Team's interested, no contract. We're waiting for this, we're waiting for that. I went to the Raptors 905 tryout and did really well there. They invited me to come back for workouts. So I was like out with their G League team. I was playing really well. So like I was hoping that I was going to get brought into training camp. And it's kind of tough as an older player, to get into the G League as like their local player.
Yeah.
They had a few other guys that was more of their focus, but I was working out with them. It kept me motivated at that time. I'm playing with like high level guys, like Tyler Ennis. He got the spot as the local player, like him and another guy, and he's an NBA guy. Played at Lakers, Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
It all.
It's tough. I mean, that level is so competitive, and you're dealing with some guys that have like they're going to create space. Like if you're there and you're barely on the roster, and then somebody becomes available who is at a higher level, they're going to create that space. You know what I mean? Because again, you're back at a point where it's all business.
It's all business. So you're working out with like really high level players. Like Joel Anthony is there. Like Tyler Ennis is there. There's a bunch of different guys that are playing at a good level, and it's fun. But it kept me motivated during the time when I was at a low point. I came off an injury. I couldn't find a job. Like there were job offers I would get, but the money was terrible. So it was like I had to either take a big step back or try and figure something out. And I ended up changing agents because I was just like, I kept not getting, like the deals kept falling through. I had a team that I booked a ticket to fly out a Pro A team. They moved up from Pro B, and it was a lower budget team. I was going to sign with them. So I had to get my own ticket to fly out there. I flew out there. I did a little tryout. They offered me a contract. But I also had a deal on the table from this new agent in Iceland. So,
okay. And what year is this?
This is this season. This was
last
season, yeah.
Okay, so what team was it that had moved up?
Schwenningen.
Okay.
Schwenningen. Yeah, they were Pro B.
The
And
Panthers, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they had actually moved up, I think, from Regionalliga a few years before, so they were kind of on their way up. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're moving their way up, but they're a really low budget team. So I was gonna go from former BBL clubs to like a former Regional League club. So I was gonna like it was still in the same level, but it's a different part of that level.
Right. Right.
So I flew out there. I did a workout because he didn't talk about money with me. So he said, like we'll see what we can get. We'll see. I want to see you play first. So I played. I did some practices with the club. And he liked my game a lot, but what he offered me, I didn't want to sign up for 2 practices a day. If you're going to do 2 hard practices a day and you're an old player, it's got to be worth it,
Right, exactly.
Because I don't want to re-injure myself for nothing, you know what I mean? Because I've already played at that level. I could reprove myself again, but I had an offer to come to Iceland this past season, and it's a lower level than Pro A, definitely, but there's more opportunities to make money, more opportunities to play and show your game. So I came here and took the decision to, go where the money was. Like I had a better deal on the table from Iceland, and I went there to see what they had to offer, and it wasn't as good. And so I took the deal in Iceland, and I had a pretty good season this year.
And so what was your output in Iceland?
I average like 16.3 points and like 8.5 rebounds a game.
So you had a big impact on the league, obviously, enough to make your name in Iceland and for somebody to want to re-sign you the next season.
Yeah.
So what is the structure in Iceland as far as like how many imports you allow compared to EU players compared to Icelandic locals?
So the way it works for the first 2 leagues, they have First Division and Domino's League is the top league. Mm-hmm. It's one import, one American or Canadian or Australian player, whatever, one import, and then you can have as many European union players that are in your budget. So if you can have either good local Icelandic players or players from, Germany, France, UK, anyone that's a European player can come over.
And so now you're in the top league, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so now are you this season? You obviously are going back to Iceland. Are you with the same team, or did you sign with a new team?
Not with the new team. So the first team I was with was in the second division. Actually, it was in it's Sindri. It was one of the lower teams that were trying to move up. Mm-hmm. And like the team they were struggling. They were struggling a lot when I got there, and still were struggling after I got there. But I helped move them more in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And I played well with the club, and I enjoyed my time here. Like it was pretty peaceful. The culture was not too hard to adjust to. People were very friendly. It's in a small town. It's been nice. Like I'm still here right now, and
it's a beautiful country. Right? I've never been there. I've seen pictures. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like just seeing like the mountains, seeing the waterfalls, volcanoes, and like it's right now in the summer. It's really green. It's really nice. It's a beautiful country. And then I signed for a team in the capital for this coming season, and it's just like there was some interest in Pro A, but the contract has to be worth it because I'm getting up in my career now. You want to do something that has longevity. At this point.
Right. And so this is year 9 for you. Year 10.
Year 9, yeah.
Wow, almost a decade of pro basketball. Good for you for lasting that long because it can really wear you out, both physically and mentally. And so now with the world situation that happened, you're obviously in Iceland. Did you go home at any point and then fly back? Did you stay in Iceland as soon as you signed? What was that like for you?
So I stayed once the COVID didn't really affect Iceland as much as it had other parts of the world. So they did testing really early. They closed the borders off, and it's pretty contained here. Mm-hmm. Feel pretty safe here. I'm planning on going home for a bit next month.
Okay.
I'm just kind of waiting it out right now here and seeing how things go. I've just been playing the wait and see game since it's happened.
And how is it in Iceland? Like, are there a lot of cases, or are people kind of?
It's pretty contained.
Yeah.
It's normal here.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say the same for the Czech Republic. I think people did their part wearing masks and took it very seriously. And I wish we would have done the same back where I come from. But that's a whole nother topic. So I think in some of these countries like Iceland, like Czech, you're really seeing it go way down by the wayside. I think I just saw in New Zealand they have 0 active cases. So hopefully there's not that resurgence. And I wish obviously all the best while you're traveling, because that can be very scary.
yeah.
Getting on there with all those international, germs and diseases and traveling. So I wish you the best with that. And what are you doing currently? You're just working out, practicing with your team, getting in shape?
I've been working out, and I've also, since I've been here in Iceland, I've been doing youth coaching as well. So
Great.
I coached like this past season. So I played on the team. I was also actually an assistant coach on the team as well.
Yep.
Because I had a rookie head coach. So he asked me to help him, with the coaching. And
Well, that
then
says a lot about him that he's willing to do that. I mean, so many guys I've seen, don't have the ego for that. They're too arrogant. They would never do something like that, especially some of the places I've been overseas. But that's awesome. Now let's talk about that youth coaching just for a minute. What is it like coaching youth in an international country where English is not the first language? Like, talk a little bit about that experience, because I know what that's like, but I don't think a lot of people understand.
it can be tough because you have kids speaking to you in a language you don't understand.
Yep.
And for some reason, like a lot of these kids don't understand that you can't speak their language. So they'll keep coming to you and speaking to you in their language. And you're just
because it's so normal for them. They don't understand. Yeah, of course.
So, it's good to have like someone, like a local player, a local coach that's with you that can help you with those things.
Yes.
So if you're by yourself, it's tough.
Very
you can
tough.
talk to another kid to try and translate and bridge the gap. But
what age group are you dealing with?
I've done like from ages 7 to 15 or 16, like.
Wow. Yeah, as you get up, that 15 or 16, it gets better. You have more kids knowing English, and you can communicate a little better. But man, when you're talking 7, those young ages, it's so difficult because you have to police them and worry about their behavior. Also, it's a scary situation because if an emergency happens and you're the only one there, who do you call? How do you communicate this? I mean, that can be extremely scary. And plus, you cannot speak the way you would if you were back home in Canada, and you're not as effective. So you really got to speak and be very concise with what you're talking about. Do a lot of demonstrating, be a little more hands-on. But also, I'm sure that's a great experience for you, because it's very challenging.
It is challenging. You find different ways to communicate. And like the older kids, it's easy. Like it's just basketball. Like coaching the older kids it's fun. It's easy. You're just helping them with their skills. You don't have too many disciplinary things to deal with. But as it gets younger, it's more babysitting and it's less coaching, and it's more of a headache.
Yeah, especially in a different language and a different culture. It's because you're going to have that anywhere if you're dealing with 7-year-olds. But then when you can't talk to them, that's tough.
Yeah, but it's been good. Like I did. Like this past season, I was helping assist the men's team here. I was working with the youth team, like grades 10, like grades 7 to 10. So I was doing that program, and I was also coaching the women's team. They have like an amateur women's team that's of all ages. So I was coaching like 2.5 teams. Yeah,
that's awesome. So now, is this something you want to transition to after playing? You would like to be a coach?
Yeah, coaching is definitely like the plan, transitioning into coaching. I've been doing basketball for so many years, and I've learned so many from the different places I've played that coaching is the next phase.
And so where do you want to do that? Would you like to continue, overseas with youth? Do you want to move to a professional level? Do you want to go back home to Canada, work with kids, work college, high school? What's your plan?
Right now, I'm just trying to figure that out. Like I wouldn't mind doing like a youth program. I'm also interested in at the college level, going in as an assistant, or even at the professional level, just depending on, what doors open up.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Good for you. And I think that's awesome. You know, so many guys, they're focused on just playing. And I think having that experience all around the basketball, like I tell a lot of kids, especially teenage kids, you need to know the game from playing, and you should get some experience coaching because then you know what it's like when how that coach looks at you when you're being a problem or having to deal and handle a whole group of people and not focused on one. So you
Yep.
get a whole nother aspect for the game. Also, like refereeing, like I think it'll give you, you know, a whole different appreciation for basketball and seeing it from a different side. So, and while you're playing to get that experience, I
Mhm.
think also helps you as a player.
It does. It does. You get to see the game from a different side, and you get to see different things with strategy, managing personnel, understanding what's happening behind the scenes, understanding. You just understand what's going on, and it makes you more effective.
Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time and sharing your journey with us. It's been great to hear. You know, it wasn't just this straight shot, like everything was great and it worked out. I mean, there was a lot of obstacles, and I think that a lot of young people listening to this and people, you know, people who are rookies trying to get overseas, they can really learn from a lot of what you said. So I, you know, I really appreciate your time and your willingness to share with us. And then, you know, we also wish you the absolute best in your career, especially as a veteran. And this coming season, man, I look forward to keeping up with you and seeing, you know, what type of damage you do in that league. And I would love to, you know, do this again with you at some time, maybe, you know, after next season or something like that. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on, and I've been enjoying the videos. I like all the knowledge you've been giving everyone, and like everything that you've been putting out is like so on point. So I'm happy to be a part of it, and appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Is there anything you want to plug, like a social media account, a website, anything like that?
Yeah, you can. My social media account for my Instagram and Twitter, it's Hype Nortmann, HYPE. My last name Nortmann. Anyone have any questions, just or want to have access, follow me there. And yeah, I I respond to messages. I'll answer questions. Just hit me up.
That's great. And we'll put a link for that and maybe throw it up on the screen as well. Definitely go follow this guy. I mean, his character is the reason why he's at where he's at, you know? So he's definitely a guy you want to follow, you want to emulate him. And again, thank you so much for your time and your willingness to share.
All right, appreciate it, man.
No problem.